Hello everybody, I am not dead yet, and before this video starts, I would actually like to shout out the Iron Musket, who donated to me via PayPal $241.25. Now, I want to tell you guys a bit of a story relating to this donation, because I originally didn't even realize he donated that much to me, because he originally donated to me on Monday, and Mondays is usually when Josh pays me for the weight loss / accountability coaching, and I charge him $20 a week for the accountability coaching, which usually comes out to around $24 Canadian. $20 US, 24 Canadian. And so it was early morning, I was just about to go for my run, I checked my emails, okay, Josh sent me the money, and I see 2-4, and I'm like, alright, we're good. So earlier today, he sends me a text and goes, hey, did you get my PayPal donation? Because, like, normally speaking, when I send you something, sometimes I get the, oh, it's sent a little bit later than when you actually receive it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what donation? All you did was pay me for Monday. And then I went back and looked. And I was like, yeah, there we go, Monday. Yeah, you paid me $240. What the hell? I was like, you what? And you can even see that in my text that I kind of flip shit because I did. I was like, what the hell? I had no idea he gave me that much, which is crazy. So Josh, and he refuses to let me give it back to him. So I mean, Josh, thank you very much. I can't. Words cannot describe how grateful I am. Words cannot describe how much that means to me. Like, what I'm going to do, however, is link both of Josh's YouTube channels in my description and encourage you guys to go down there and watch as much of his content as you possibly can. Get his second channel monetized, and for the channel that's already monetized, watch all of his stuff without skipping any of the ads, so hopefully he can earn back some of the money that I stole from him by, you know, him giving the money to me willingly without me asking. So please go and do that. Josh, thank you very much again. I'm speechless, and I'm still kind of in shock and mind blown that, you know, you'd be willing to do stuff like that. Thank you very much. But with that out of the way, today I want to talk about progressive overload, because more specifically, why I stopped doing it. And I feel like that's a really hot take, because progressive overload is basically just, again, how you progress. It's in the name. But I have been using pretty much the exact same weights. No, not pretty much, the exact same weights on all my lifts, because I lift full body every day, for like the past half a year. But I really kind of stopped using progressive overload for maybe 2 to 3 months at this point. I want to more specifically on the bench press, because the bench press is the one where I'm really trying to improve, but again, in all my lifts, really. And I know a lot of people will be kind of shocked by that, but I want to take you through why I stopped and why it might be a good idea for you to stop as well. See, the main difference between me and a lot of other people in this community is that I am not a lifter, nor am I a bodybuilder. I am actually an endurance athlete. I am a boxer. And so weightlifting to me is supplementary. You know how a lot of people in the kind of weightlifting and bodybuilding space kind of just do cardio, and they kind of like, okay, the cardio is something I do in addition to lifting? Well, to me, it's the exact opposite. I lift in addition to my cardio. I train 3 times a day. I go for a run, I lift weights, and then I do boxing, which is sports-specific training. And recently, I was with sparring picking up and getting a lot more intense, more specifically Mondays. Mondays is my hard sparring day, and then Wednesdays is my more light technique-focused sparring day. But even still, I really wanted to focus hard on kind of perfecting more specific elements of my boxing. I wanted to improve both my stamina in the ring, so again, I focused a little bit more on running, as well as my techniques. I wanted to focus more on mastering certain body shots, certain combinations, and various forms of head movement, and I found that the more I lifted, because I've said it before, again, my collab with Brendan Gage, I view lifting weights as one massive pre-exhaust. I tire myself out so that I can see what I can do when my body is tired. And I've said it before, like, nobody cares what you can do fresh. Anyone can fight fresh, but it's those moments where you're dead tired that distinguish champions from contenders. What can you do when you're tired? That is what's important in my sport. And so weightlifting or maximizing my lifts was never really a big priority, and I found that being more tired took away from my ability to optimally work on these techniques. I found things like my movement was a lot more sluggish with my legs. I had trouble jumping back and forth with the slips. I found that, especially considering the fact that I was really training to deal and flush out lactic acid in my shoulders, that my recovery just wasn't as good. And so I basically kept it at the same weight and focused a lot more of my progression in my sport-specific training. Now, you could argue that, oh, well, that is progressive overload. That is, you're still using progressive overload. You're just progressively overloading in other aspects of your life. But I wanted to make this video to focus on the fact that I stopped progressively overloading in lifting, and I'm basically currently main training. I'm basically doing the same weights that I was doing, all the time in order to maintain the level of strength that I have, as opposed to attempt to get quote unquote stronger. Now, this doesn't mean that I won't eventually up the weights at all. In fact, I'm probably going to do it relatively soon. These weights are starting to get too light for me, to the point where I don't feel tired like at all after a set. It's not quite there yet, but there will be times where I'm like, I don't feel like I just finished 4 sets. I feel like I finished 3, and at that point I think it's time for me to progress. But I think that in the bodybuilding space, because not everybody is a bodybuilder, not everybody is a weightlifter, a lot of people focus really hard on progressive overload, more specifically adding weight to the bar. And I know that a lot of people kind of talk against adding weight to the bar every week, because like people talk about adding weight to the bar every week. I haven't added weight to the bar in literally like half a year. However, the weight that I'm using now I can handle with ease, and even then there are other ways to make your training more difficult. The bar that's behind me right there, that bench, I don't know if you can see it. It's a light bar. It's only 20 pounds and it's very thin. The bars that I use at my gym are at, standard bar that are way thicker, and that actually makes lifting it harder. So again, there are various other ways that people incorporate making your lifts harder on a week-to-week basis, but I want to make it clear that progressive overload is a tool that you use in order to achieve a certain goal. And sometimes, if your goals don't necessarily line up with maximizing strength, it is okay to let progressive overload in lifting fall to the wayside while you focus on other things. Again, you will eventually need to add more weight to the bar, because again, things are just gonna get way too easy, and you don't want to get things to get way too easy. But I stopped progressively overloading in the sense of lifting or strength, so that I could progressively overload in other aspects of my life. And that doesn't necessarily mean, because some people will say, well, because you focus on the other things, it made the lifting harder, so you're still technically progressively overloading, which you could say is true, but honestly speaking, I think it's more I was saving more energy to focus more on the other aspects of my training. I never really made anything more difficult in the boxing or the running. I was just having more energy to work in those other types of training. And that's just looking at things from a pure performance perspective. If we look at things from a physique perspective, it is perfectly reasonable to believe that some people will just stop at a certain point after they reach a certain physique or certain strength level. Models are a good example of this. They don't want to get too big, they don't want to get too strong, they have a specific look they need to maintain, and so after a certain point, they will stop, they will adhere to a specific routine, and I assume stop progressively overloading, because progressive overload just overall isn't the goal. Another one that really actually kind of kicked off my idea to make this video was actually Michelle McDaniel, who mentioned in some video that I have no idea at this point, that she doesn't really up, I think it was her leg routine, or her routine in general, because she doesn't really want to grow anymore. She's perfectly happy with how she looks, and she's perfectly happy with her strength level, so she just keeps all her weights the same and maintains a specific routine in order to keep the athleticism that she has and the physique that she has, but is not really interested in progressing. And I think that's also very important, because well, in an environment that's constantly pushed and centered around progress and against stagnation, and as someone whom I myself am against stagnation, it is okay to look at something and say, I am satisfied with this. Like, there's nothing wrong with looking at your physique and going, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to get any bigger. I don't need bigger biceps. I don't need bigger shoulders or a bigger chest. I don't need to lift more. I am perfectly happy with the fitness level that I have, and I'm going to just maintain that and live out the rest of my life. That is okay, and I think it's important to just kind of get that out there, that progressive overload is not the be-all, end-all, depending on what your goals are. So that's really all I have to say for this video. I find a lot of people are really worried about quote-unquote spinning their wheels and not progressing in the gym, but I also think it's important to remember that everyone's goals are different, and I think obviously if you are a power lifter or a strongman or even a bodybuilder, I think this could apply to even bodybuilders to a certain extent, depending on, you know, if whether you're training for strength or versus hypertrophy, but that's a, you know, story for another time. I think this applies most to hybrid athletes, runners who lift weights so they can have a little bit of a stronger body, but are, again, more focused primarily on their cardio, or literally any other sport like that requires sport-specific training, like football players, basketball players, soccer players, where you need cardio, a little bit of weights, again, because your body does need to be strong, but you also have sport-specific training where you need to build up specific skills that are separate from lifting, that take time and energy. And so the main point of this video is that a lot of people are scared of spinning their wheels in the gym, and I think a lot of fitness influencers unintentionally play into that fear-mongering of spinning their wheels in continuously talking about progressive overload, because it is true that you need progressive overload to progress in the gym, but I also want to remind you that progressive overload is a tool among the myriad of tools that you have to help you progress towards your goals. And I think it's important to know two things: one, what your goals are specifically, and two, how to use the tools at your disposal to get you there. Because again, had I continued to push the weight but wasn't really doing very well with my boxing and the techniques, I just wasn't getting them very well, and I didn't have the energy to spar or practice my techniques, and I was just getting beat up, that doesn't really help me at all. So it's okay to kind of stop progressing and just maintain for a certain amount of time while you focus on other things. And this could be true in all aspects of life. Sometimes you can't, you're too busy studying and you can't even optimize your lifting. So just, you say, okay, well, I'll just maintain my level of strength for now and then focus really hard on progressing when I have the time. I think it's important to realize that while, yes, progressive overload is a tool to achieve your goals, it's not always, depending on your goals, it could even be detrimental. I also ultimately think it's important to let people know that it's okay to stop, to know when to say when, you know, that you don't have to keep adding weight to the bar until you're a world-class power lifter, or I don't want to keep adding muscle onto my frame until I look exactly like Chris Bumstead or Nick Walker or Ronnie Coleman or Big Ramy or whoever. I don't need to keep pushing to get shredded until I look like Tristan Lee. I think it's important to let people know that it's okay to go, you know what, I'm perfectly happy with where I am right now. I'm okay with not getting any stronger. I like the way I look. I'm okay with the way I look. I would much rather devote the rest of my time to doing other things and just keeping a routine where I can kind of go through the motions and just stay in decent shape. I think that's okay. If your goal is progress, by all means, continue to progress and do it intelligently and use progressive overload as a tool. Don't focus so hard on it, but use it as a tool in order to get you to whatever your goals are. And yeah, that's really all I wanted to say for this video. So until the next one, I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters again, and Josh for the donation. You all support me immensely. It really does mean the world, given everything that's been happening lately and all the stress of, you know, everyday life. I cannot thank you all enough. Thank you very much, Skybox Designs, who is my newest supporter. And for those of you that are interested in supporting me, but, you know, don't really want to make the big commitment of $5, which is perfectly understandable, I will be making a $1 Patreon tier. I am hoping to have it out by the time this video comes out, so you guys can check that out if you want. To anybody who wants to sponsor me, I'm looking for sponsors. You can sponsor either me in general, my athletics, or a video. And if anybody wants to buy anything off of Greg Doucette or HGLT sops.com, brain fart there. But if anybody wants to buy anything of that, all my links will be in the description. But until the next one, I am not dead yet. Remember, only the strong subscribe, and if you are not dead either, there is always a tomorrow waiting for you.